There's a light in the sky, rising in the air. There's a feeling so strong. It's time to light the fire, like a bright shining light. Learn, getting more out of life. Learn, sharing time with friends, feeling so strong.
Hello, welcome to the House of Wellness. I'm Luke Darcy, and it's always a pleasure to be joined by Joe Stanley, Rachael Finch and Luke Hines. Welcome, guys.
Hi,
Great to see you, mate. Hello.
Good to see you guys, as always. Spring well and truly in the air, warmer days, balmier nights, and it all helps, Joe, to get that spring in your step. I love this time of year.
Oh, so do I, Darcy. There's something about the change of season that really lifts your psyche, I think. I hate the cold. It's a shame because I live in Melbourne, so it is a bit of a shame. But summer is my time of year. I just feel so much more energetic. I feel like I can get up earlier and get moving earlier and get my body moving. It's just awesome. And it's a really interesting topic. While there's not much research in the psychology of why we prefer some seasons over others, there is some research that shows that seasonal changes in temperature and light can have an impact on moods and behaviours.
Totally. It just makes sense. It's really well known that in the shorter months of winter, some people can experience a seasonal affective disorder, which is also known as the winter blues. And then spring comes, our mood changes, we feel like there's a boost in productivity, which of course is dependent on how much time we're spending outside.
I am all about this, Rach. Now, there is absolutely no doubt that light affects our mood. It comes back to our body's natural circadian rhythm, which is that 24-hour cycle of sleep and wakefulness, which is influenced by sunlight. So, if you're not getting enough sunlight, research has shown that the body releases hormones that trigger lethargy. For me, I am summer all the way because I'm not tan enough.
No, me and you both. Bondi icebergs.
Oh, every day,
morning.
sunrise. You just feel good. It means exercise. Seeing that sunrise, I think, can change your entire mindset.
I'd have to say summer for me too, Joe. I love it. It reminds me of summers as a kid down the beach. We spend the whole summer away with our family. Are you a summer girl or not?
I love it. I mean, I burn like that. So I like to cover myself head to toe and sit in the shade and look at the sun.
Now, Heinzie, while on Light and Colour you've been talking about, you've got a great story of one of Melbourne's most prominent street artists as well.
Mate, I am all over this and extremely passionate to share this with you guys today. I cannot tell you how talented this guy is. His name is Go. Now, he's produced some of the most incredible portraits around town, but it's what he's been doing overseas to help the kids in some of the poorest parts of Mongolia that's truly inspiring. It's all about, guys, the power of art.
He is remarkable, Heinz. You're looking forward to that one. And, Joe, it's Defibrillation Awareness Month. Hard to say.
It is, but very important. Now, October has been named many things. Darcy, you work at Triple M. Do they still call October Rocktober?
We've got Oztober going. All Australian music. Not much has changed in radio.
That's right. But this year, October is Shocktober, which is all about raising awareness of the need to have more of the life-saving defibrillators in all public spaces.
And it is also Dogtober.
Dogtober.
We've all had those. We've had a beautiful assistance dogs on the show, and this month is for them. So how cute is that?
Yeah, it's a month that's full of great causes and so many that's hard to note them all. But I like this one. International Coffee Day is the 1st of October, which is something that we're all pretty passionate about here.
Yeah, oh my God, give me one now.
And also coming up later, the amazing Beck Danaher, the daughter of the legend that is Neil Danaher, one of the most inspirational people I've ever met. Neil's fight with MND has been inspiring. He and his family have done an incredible amount of work to find a cure. The big freeze at the G, as you know, Joe, is one of the most iconic events. And Beck has got some news and an update on where Neil and the fight to cure MND is at.
Absolutely. But speaking of footy legends, we did see plenty last weekend when Richmond absolutely smashed GWS in the AFL Grand Final. Big weekend for you, Darcy.
It wasn't a great day for the Giants. It's fair to say they got belted 89 points.
They did try their hardest.
They did. Just ran out of gas on the biggest day. Pretty heartbreaking. You get the winners and the losers on the other side. It's always hard to handle, Heinzie.
Well, this weekend it is the NRL's turn. It is the Roosters taking on the Raiders in Sydney for the 2019 Championship. But can the Roosters do it 2 years in a row? And I guess if they do, Das, it would be a cock-a-doodle too.
Oh, my God.
Do you love it? Yes, I saved that all night. I have been so excited.
Did you get that from Gerald?
I did. Gerald lent me that gag, and Gerald, you said it would go down well.
Yeah, like a lead balloon, that one. I'll tell you who is one of my most inspiring athletes. Cooper Cronk played last year's grand final with a broken shoulder.
Amazing.
Ridiculous. He's a star. If he can do it again in his last game, he will be one of the all-time greats. Here it is, Cooper Cronk. But up next, we meet the inspiring artist who's bringing colour to the streets of Melbourne and beyond. That's coming up right here on the House of Wellness. Welcome back. One of the many things I love about Melbourne is its incredible street art. Joan, I know you're a big fan.
Oh, I really am. Melbourne's laneways are world famous for their colourful art, and we have some amazing local talent. And the suburb of Collingwood here in Melbourne even has a mural by legendary New York artist Keith Haring, which I absolutely love. He created it when he was here in 1984, and it's one of only 31 murals across the world that has survived. It's now on the Victorian Heritage Register, but that is the future of a lot of the work that we see on our city walls. Street art has just come such a long way from being seen as a criminal act of vandalism to now being supported and commissioned by councils and businesses around Australia. It's awesome, Hinesy.
Look, no one really wants to be seeing an ugly drab wall or a building when they're stuck in traffic, when you could be looking at an amazing piece of art. It's 100% public and free for all to see, and the bright colours and imagery bring a real sense of community to the area, which is exactly why a very talented Melbourne-based artist is bringing his amazing artwork and the positive power of paint to streets everywhere.
Melbourne-based street artist Hisko was born and raised in Mongolia. He came to Australia when he was 20.
I mean, Mongolia just come out of like communist system, and I wanted to become an artist, but it's just I really couldn't see a future there.
It was a brave move. He knew no one, but took the plunge and came to Sydney to study art. It wasn't long before his passion for creating huge artworks became clear.
Started painting sort of like a couple of walls in Sydney, but Sydney's like a different place for that at that time. It was only like when I moved to Melbourne, 2010, that I started like really getting into it, and everything kind of took a turn, you know?
His murals are now iconic pieces found in all kinds of locations across the country. His subjects range from politicians and musicians to local celebrities.
Yeah!
His skill for producing supersized portraits has been embraced in country areas on the famous Silo Trail. Each piece has a message, makes a statement, brings a sense of pride, and always captures the community spirit. One in particular, commissioned by Victoria University, has special significance.
It's like the wall that I drive past almost every day. I just like pictured it, you know, in my head, and like I submitted the design, and they really liked it. So it was the first time I actually got to paint my own like sort of unique original design on like a 5-story building. That was important to me. Yeah, it feels good to have done something that I can actually be like really proud of.
It's producing work relevant to the space and to the people that matters, like this latest one that he can more than relate to.
It's a community sort of a mural project where we're depicting refugees who've, you know, like despite all odds, like kind of working, living, and making a better life, I suppose.
One of his subjects is a new bourgeois who migrated from India 20 years ago. Like many, she found the transition to life here tough.
Art is ultimately healing, it is powerful. We use it to send messages. So while it's not the only way to send that message, it's a visual reminder that, hey, these are people that are within the community, they exist. Let's be a bit more culturally curious. Let's go beyond just sampling different cuisines and say we are a multicultural society.
Public art in general like has the potential to change environments and how people feel, and when you paint it up, it kind of like changes the whole area.
It's for this reason that Hisko volunteers his skills in his homeland of Mongolia.
The project's called Rainbow Cover. So they hit me up and said, like, look, we have this idea to paint the water wells in the Gur districts in Mongolia, where it's just, they're like Mongolian slums, pretty much. we figured like let's bring in some art, you know, like some bright colors and positive images and messages to the kids. In a way, like we want to treat it as art therapy for the kids. They all loved it. But it was, yeah, like just good to see them excited, you know, because like in the future of this project, we want to get the kids themselves involved and come up with designs themselves. But the murals were like for the whole community, for the whole neighborhood. And we could already see, like, you know, just by the sheer amount of people coming up to us and saying, like, you know, thank you.
Hisco has lived the life of the kids in the slums of Gur, something that's always with him.
The problems there are always like this luggage I like kind of carry around, you know, and only recently I started like realizing, look, I don't need to have much money to do things, and it doesn't really require much effort then for you to turn up and paint, you know, and like it always starts with something really small. So like this is our way of like, you know, trying to implement some small change that hopefully will trigger other things. But in order for that to happen, like we need to keep doing it, you know, and spread it around like all the neighborhoods.
Oh, what beautiful work that is. And of course, the silos in rural Australia are truly extraordinary. It's worth hitting one of those silo trails, I reckon, and sinking some of your coin into those little country towns.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because Hisco told me that his first silo that was commissioned only had a budget of $10,000, which was just spent on the cherry picker, crane and the paint. He made absolutely nothing. So it's kickstarted a huge trend, though. Plus, we should really get behind this guy. He's trying to help the disadvantaged kids in Mongolia doing what he's good at, which is, you know, a vision and some spray cans.
Yeah, it's a great story, Hines. You go to our website for more on how you can help Hisco. But right now, here's one of our own many colours, a man of many colours. It's Gerald Quigley behind the health bar. Gerald, you're a bit of a fan of the street art as well, aren't you?
Oh, look, Das, great fan. And Rach and I were just saying, the scale of the work is just phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible how he does, you know, artistry of that size when he's standing so close to the actual canvas himself. It's incredible. I love his work. I love your work too, Gerald.
Well, thank you, Rach. And look, I don't really enjoy painting and I'm not much good with a roller. But we do bring some joy and happiness and colour with our information each time we get together. And I want to take you today on the magnesium journey, which is a pretty special mineral.
Yeah, it is a mighty mineral. I know it's great for energy, but also good for lowering blood pressure and combating depression, I believe, as well.
Well, it's the fourth most abundant mineral in our body, Rach, and it really is important for so many things, be it energy production, muscles expanding and contracting, DNA formation, protein use. There's so many activities that magnesium can be involved in. So we should never underestimate it. And that's the real challenge, to make sure we've got sufficient.
So we've got cereals, dark chocolate, pumpkin seeds, spinach and nuts, all really good sources of magnesium and absolutely delicious just to eat on their own anyway. Is this enough to make sure our magnesium levels are up to scratch?
Sadly, Rach, it's not. About a third of Australians don't have enough magnesium because as well as eating it, we're using it. We're expending magnesium all the time. So there's other ways that you can get magnesium. And remember that teenagers and young folk over 70 need more because their demands are greater. So looking at some supplemental options is a good option.
OK, so the supplements. Some people don't like taking supplements, though. What's the other options?
Well, let me take you on the magnesium cream journey. So if we're looking here at localised use, if you've got damage or cramping or spasms and you want to treat it locally, one option is to apply magnesium cream. Magnesium chloride is the actual mineral of magnesium we use. It crosses the skin barrier quite easily and it works locally very efficiently.
What about some other natural remedies for bruises, scratches, you know, sore muscles?
We talked there, Rach, about arnica. Now, arnica's been around for thousands of years. The Romans used it, and a very important mineral in their little boudoir there. But when you combine magnesium and arnica together, you get bruising, swelling, bleeding, pain, all under the one roof. So it treats it locally, brilliantly, and you can use supplements as well. And you might apply that, Rach, 2 or 3 times a day.
You've convinced me. I'm off to the shop.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Gerald. The A to Z of vitamins is brought to you by Caruso's Natural Health Super Magnesium. Experiencing muscle aches and pains? Try Caruso's Super Magnesium.
Welcome back. We all know the importance of heart health, which we highlighted recently on the show when we looked at the warning signs of heart attacks, Jo.
That's right, and recognising the symptoms early, calling an ambulance right away and administering CPR are absolute lifesavers. But there's another piece to the puzzle. If you do have a cardiac arrest in a random location, another crucial way to increase your chance of survival is by having access to a defibrillator.
And most of us have seen these either in reality or on television.
Yeah, that's right, Rach. They're basically a device that uses electricity to restart the heart or shock it back into its correct rhythm.
That's right. So it's important these devices are readily available in workplaces and public spaces, as a Victorian dad of two found out the hard way.
I've always just been into general fitness, and so I used to go for a run or a jog. But most of the sport I do is family orientated, and with my wife Beck and two boys, we do a fair bit of activity.
Brett Hawkwood's weekend started like any other. The usual 5K run with his family in the local park. He had no idea that he was about to enter the fight of his life.
During that week, I'd gone for a couple of runs, so everything felt normal at that point in time. So we sort of rocked down, and then as I got out of the car, things start getting a little bit more hazy for me.
What he didn't know was his body was about to give way.
But about a kilometre in, I had a cardiac arrest. So running with the boys, sorry, I get a bit emotional when I tell it, but I'm sort of getting used to that now. I had a cardiac arrest. I fell and hit the ground. My heart stopped and I went straight into ventricular fibrillation.
Sudden cardiac arrest can be fatal. Only 10% of people survive an SCA outside of hospital, and the first 3 minutes are crucial.
The trickiest thing with a cardiac arrest is actually determining what happened and someone recognising that. And fortunately, with so many people running, there was good help at hand. So I understand that a good friend now, Kim, and
Kim is a nurse who recognised straight away that Brett was in cardiac arrest. She performed CPR, but even with the ambulance on its way, it was clear he needed immediate assistance.
Fortunately, Mullen Park Run had a pretty brand new defibrillator there, and so that was run down from the start line by the run director on the day, Kaz. That ended up being used on me twice, so my heart got started again, it stopped again, and started again.
Greg was lucky that those who came to his aid knew CPR.
I ended up being in hospital for 13 days, so right through that Christmas period. As I say, I can't remember much of Christmas Day or Boxing Day, but thereafter I started, coming back to and getting a full realisation of what happened and how extremely fortunate I was to still be here, and just how thankful and grateful I was.
Greg's experience was profound. Now he's on a mission to promote the importance of CPR and knowing where your nearest defibrillator is located.
Defibrillators are designed so that they're easy to use. So effectively, they're designed with a voice prompt which tells you exactly what you need to do. So anyone, whether you've touched one before or not, can open the lid and work out exactly what they need to do in an emergency. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. You never know when a loved one, a friend, or even a stranger is going to have a cardiac arrest. They can occur any time and anywhere. So knowing CPR and knowing where to access a defibrillator is a life or death situation.
Wow, what a lucky guy in there. And after the break, more on the device that's shocking hearts back into rhythm. That's coming up next, right here on the House of Wellness. Welcome back. Each year, more than 30,000 Australians suffer a cardiac arrest, many without having any prior symptoms and very little warning. Dialing 000, CPR and using a defibrillator can all add up to a better chance of survival. Here to tell us more, welcome Bill Stravesky from the Heart Foundation and Alison Osmond from St John Ambulance. Guys, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Luke.
Welcome. I'll start with you, Bill. Before the break, we met Brett, one of the many Australians saved by the quick action of bystanders after he had a cardiac arrest. Tell us what a defibrillator did to save his life.
Well, what it does, and it's taking a step back, and what a cardiac arrest is quite different to a heart attack. A heart attack is when there's a blockage of your artery, so it doesn't allow the blood to flow, where a cardiac arrest is an electrical problem. So think of it as your car, where your battery might go flat and you need to jump start it. It's the same thing with the heart. So a defib really gets the heart electrical system going back again.
Okay. So I sadly have had many experiences in the last few years of young people in my life having cardiac arrest, which was so surprising to me. Why is that happening, and is it happening more commonly?
It is happening quite often, and we generally see people on the sporting field, and whether here locally in Australia or overseas, and unfortunately most people don't survive, and that's because they're not aware of the heart condition that they have. They're either born with it or it's genetic, it's passed on through family, and most people won't know that they have any condition, and the first warning sign is when their heart stops and they collapse. And so what we do know is whilst survival is quite poor, unfortunately we have more than 150 young people die each year.
Well, speaking of that, how do we know if someone's actually having a cardiac arrest compared to maybe indigestion or a panic attack?
You will quickly realise that they'll stop breathing, they'll be motionless, where if it's in indigestion, you'll still see some breathing, you'll still see some movement. So, and one of the great things about a defib is it's safe to use even if you get it wrong. So it's better to have a go and save someone's life than to sit back and be second-guessing yourself on a later stage.
Absolutely.
So, Alison, you're from St John's, and I know that you train people in first aid and CPR and now obviously using a defib. How often are we seeing bystanders and people who just happen to be there at the time stepping in and saving people's lives?
It is increasing, but still, it's about 1% for using defibrillators.
Oh, that's low.
Yeah, so it's really low. So, John, I'd love to see that figure get to 50%. We've got a long way to go. For bystander CPR, it is improving. I couldn't tell you the exact figures, but yeah, we are seeing. We do our CPR lab, and we're getting out into communities, and we're really trying to demystify CPR to get people to just have a go, because it is a key part of survival as well as the defib. You know, CPR is really important and crucial in keeping...
Well, Alison, you've got one here with you. This is a defibrillator. Can you tell us, how does it work, basically?
Yep. Well, these, like we've said, and even Brett said in his demo, these are designed for anyone to use them. They're easy to use. So they have voice prompts. So they come with your pads set up like this.
Yep.
Okay, we require both pads to go on the chest, but you can see that it tells you the exact placement, okay, of where you need to put them. Once you turn this on, it's a voice prompt machine. It'll tell you step by step of what needs to happen, and it will repeat the step.
So you don't need any training at all? It teaches you?
It teaches you. It's as like I said, it's designed for anybody to do it. So it is a step by step. It'll tell you to remove the clothes, it'll tell you to place the pads. If the pads are incorrect, it'll keep repeating the instruction until the pads are in the correct place, and then it'll move on to the next instruction.
Because my image is like, you know, a Hollywood movie where they go like this.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
none of that. None of that. And the person doesn't fly up off the table.
So how easy are they to find? Because I wouldn't even know wherever I am where the defibs are.
Yep. So the universal symbol for a defibrillator is your heart with the lightning bolt in it. It's usually green and white, and we'll say AED above it, and they are well designed to be in community places. So you have a look when you're in Coles, your Maccas, out in your supermarkets and shopping centres. We're trying to get them more and more places, like Brett said, park runs and places like that in your sporting ovals.
So would you like to see one in every home? I believe they're fairly easy to purchase online. What about community spaces? Who funds those?
There's a lot through government grants and other organisations, and it's great that they're becoming much more prevalent now, because every minute that somebody has a cardiac arrest, survival reduces by 10%. So every minute counts. Unfortunately, only 10 to 20% of people survive a cardiac arrest. So we want to get that figure much higher.
Just going back in time, Kerry Packer put the defibrillator on the map, didn't he, with a heart attack, and paid for them in ambulances all through New South Wales.
That's
and in fact, on
correct.
his golf course, I think he put one on every hole because it had saved his life.
Yeah, that's correct. That was probably going back a couple decades, but yeah, Kerry Packer did have a heart attack, and a defib did save his life. And what he did do is gratefully then fund many across New South Wales.
So then, Bill, what else do you think is needed for a community to know how to best respond to an emergency situation like a cardiac arrest?
Yeah, so there are heart-safe communities, and these are individuals and groups who've gotten together and really to, one, train and know how to use a defib and be quite comfortable. It really is having your CPR training, and they're not hard to use. It's very simple. It's automated. It talks through. You put the pads on, make sure you don't even have to stand back. Even the person who's using the defib will only get a little tingle even if they're touching the body. So it's not the Hollywood where you have to stand back. It is quite simple and straightforward.
Well, when I fell pregnant, it was the first thing I did, went and did a CPR course just to know. It's so important.
Yeah, and great to hear that defibs are more accessible than we perhaps first thought. So you may want to check out where they are in your area. Bill and Alison, thanks so much for joining us on the House of Wellness and informing us about a very, very important issue.
Well, maintaining a healthy lifestyle and diet is key to looking after your heart, of course. And Heinzie, you are a big fan of a superfood that helps do just that.
Exactly right. We are talking all things chia today, and it is not just the name of my gorgeous little dog. The chia seed packs a massive health punch. It's loaded with fibre, protein, minerals and heaps of nutrition. And Zoe's here to help put this mighty seed into your daily diet.
Everybody is trying to find more creative ways to eat more plant-based protein. And that is why my Vietnamese spring rolls with crusted tofu chia seeds is amazing. Now, when it comes to your crumb, what I'm using is some wholemeal flour. I've got sesame seeds, which have a little bit of calcium in them as well. And then I'm also going to add the Biogland chia seeds. This is one of my favourite products. Not only will it add a little bit more crunch to the crumb, it's also got a huge amount of omega-3 fatty acids. It's high in fibre, but it just balances the flavour altogether. I've gone ahead and I've cut my tofu into strips so they'll fit nicely into my Vietnamese rolls. Gently put it into the egg wash. What we want is we want a lovely crunch when we fry this. The chia seeds, the sesame and that beautiful wholemeal flour is going to work really, really well. Rice paper can be a little bit tricky to work with, but here are some tips. It all comes down to the water. You don't want it to be too hot and you also don't want it to be too cold. Lukewarm is perfect. You want the rice paper just to sit in there till it becomes slightly pliable but has a firmness to it. So about that is perfect. I've got some coleslaw and some coriander. I'm going to serve my Vietnamese rolls with a dipping sauce made from soy sauce, a little bit of lime juice, sesame oil and some fiery chilli. Mix it all together. And remember guys, no double dipping.
Welcome back. In 2013, AFL legend Neil Danaher was diagnosed with motor neuron disease. Since then, he's become the public face of MND, and he and his family have worked tirelessly to raise awareness and to try and find a cure. His daughter Beck has been there side by side every step of the way. Great to catch up with you again, Beck.
Thanks so much for having me on again.
And you brought in with you Professor Paul Toulmin, who started the Australian MND registry following over 2,500 MND patients. Old neighbour of mine, Paul. He once let me in when I locked myself out of my house. Thanks for doing that. Good to catch up with you, and it's a great achievement to be putting that amount of work into this cause.
Yep, absolutely.
Now, I want to start with you, Beck. I've got to ask, your dad's one of the most inspirational people I've ever met. We all love him. How is he?
He's going well. I do find this question really hard to answer because MND is a beast and every day is a little bit harder, but you see what Dad's like. He is so super positive and he keeps us working really hard at Fight MND, so he's going well.
Yes, so now, Beck, the last time we saw you, we were heading into the big freeze at the MCG. Another amazing event this year. Absolutely loved it. And Neil was named 2019 Victorian of the Year for his campaign work. So it's just been an incredible year for you guys.
It has been so exciting. Another thing that Dad is doing, he's announcing a book on the 24th of October. Oh, so not only has he been doing all those other things in the background, he's got this book and he's excited to share his story with everyone.
Wow.
But yeah, he's a busy man.
One of the most remarkable stories we've said. But the big news, Beck, on top of that, there's 15 new research projects and drug trials that have come as a result of $9 million raised largely through the big freeze at the G. Staggering amount of money. And it's brilliant that you get it straight out there, repurposing it straight away.
Yeah, it's the most important thing that we can do is communicate with everyone that supported us, bought a beanie, donated over the year. And we want to make sure that they know straight away that we're putting that money to where it needs to go. And it's really making an impact. And you can see these clinical trials are moving through phase 1, through phase 2, and we have been able to fund a phase 3 trial this year. So it's exciting times, but we just want to say a big thank you to everyone out there who's been able to support us to allow us to do this.
Well, we thank Fight MND. It's amazing what you're doing. It does bring us now to you, Paul. Tell us about the drug trials. How do they actually work? I know that you're using existing medications that are used for other conditions.
Yeah, so these trials are phase 1, 2 and 3. Phase 3 is just before you actually release it because it's had a beneficial effect and you've demonstrated that. So currently the phase 3 trial that's going ahead is on Triumeq, which is a drug used in HIV. And that attacks retrovirus that we all have in our bodies and actually inhibits it. And it's made it through phase 1 and 2 trials and is now going into phase 3. So that's a really exciting drug. There is a drug that's being used for heart disease that's a repurposed drug now for MND going into phase 1 trial to see whether patients can tolerate it or not. And there's just concluded another trial which went to phase 3 which was a drug used in MS, Tecfidera, which is a drug well known in the MS community. And that trial is just finished and is locked, and they'll be doing data analysis in October.
Wow, so does that mean that we're going to see new drugs released on the market for people who aren't involved in the trials?
Once they get through phase 3, they have to demonstrate an outcome, a positive outcome, either in it slows the disease down or it prolongs survival. So they're the two key parameters that are used in all drug trials, these type of trials, to see whether they're effective. If that's the case, if it's statistically significant, then it would be considered to get it into the marketplace.
It's extraordinary because what you're doing is creating hope that perhaps was not there previously. Would you say that, Paul?
There's no doubt. This is a devastating disease. I mean, Fight MND it's a paradigm shift. It's a game changer, what they've done to be able to pour this amount of money into MND. They poured more money into MND research in the first year of operation than had occurred in the previous 25 years.
Wow.
So there's obviously been a lot of research into this already, and one of the challenges was effectively that people didn't live long enough, did they, to do what your dad's done, and that is raise as much awareness and as much money, and now we're seeing great hope in the work Paul and his team are doing. It must give you great strength.
Yeah, it definitely does. When Dad was diagnosed, he was given, 27 months to live, which is a really hard thing for us to go through as a family, and he was told that he wouldn't be able to walk, it would affect his speech, so he wouldn't be able to talk and be a face of the organisation for as long as he has been able to. So we're very lucky that he's been with us a lot longer than he was given, and as a consequence of that, you can see him powering it at the big freeze, at the Danaher's drive and leading the charge, and it's really important to us to keep him with us as long as we can and to know that what he's done is really making an impact. He's creating a legacy for years to come.
Yeah.
So, Beck, can you tell me a little bit more about one of your other money raisers, which is the Danaher Drive? What is it exactly and how can people get involved?
Danaher's Drive is definitely one of my favourite campaigns that we do. So it's all about getting out into the regional community. We know MND is not a city-based disease. It does affect everyone. And we also know that the regional communities have rallied behind us since day dot. So it's 320 participants and they fundraise in the lead up, and then we go out to the different regional towns and say thank you for everything you've done, raise a bit more awareness and a bit more funds for Fight MND. And the best way that people can support us is we've got an amazing car raffle. So if they go to fightmnd.org.au, they can buy a ticket and go in the draw to win a Mercedes dual cab ute.
Hello.
So, yes. I know we've got a lot of tradies that support us, so I think it'd be quite appealing. And as we said, every dollar counts. So if any generous donations that people can provide, we will put it hard at work. We'll get Paul back in there and getting busy working away.
I should just say, it's not just me. What Fight MND have done is the number of researchers focused on research on MND in Australia has quadrupled. So it's changed. A whole lot of laboratories are now focusing on this disease and establishing international collaborations, which are really significant.
Yeah, it's great to hear, Paul, and great to hear from you, Beck. The Danaher Drive, as Beck said, 10th to the 13th of October. It's always a lot of fun when you're around the Danaher family. It's a great event to get involved in, and donate. We'll give you all the details on our website, House of Wellness. Beck, we wish you and Neil especially all the very best. And Paul, thanks for coming in today. Appreciate it. Up next, we're moving out of the house and onto the street. Hey Hines, earlier in the show you brought us the story of the legendary street artist Hisco, and he's invited us, Joe, down to check out his latest work. So here we are.
It's exciting. It's like a gallery opening in a laneway or something.
Something like that.
It's very Melbourne.
Nice to get out of the studio anyway.
Oh, I can't wait to see what he's done.
Excursion time. Hello.
Hi guys.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Guys!
Oh my God!
That's amazing. That is incredible, mate.
Oh my God!
That is.
Hisco!
Mate, that
When
is
did you do
genius.
this?
How are you? I'm Luke.
Nice to meet
That
you.
is amazing. That is amazing.
How are you, mate? I'm the other Luke on that one.
Oh, you are amazing.
There's Darcy's signature smile.
I've only got one smile, as you say. That's it.
I look younger and prettier in brick.
Oh my God!
Mate, how do you do that? I have no up so close.
Holy heck!
Glad you guys like it.
How long did this take you?
It was about 3 days.
That's your look too.
That's my
3
look.
days, yeah.
3 days.
Got lucky with the weather. So,
Only 3 days.
Wow, that is amazing.
Who was the most difficult to paint?
I don't know. They were all kind of.
Challenging.
My hair looks challenging, let's be honest.
Mine looks amazing. You've done a really good
Thank
job
you.
on my hair.
Actually, yeah, you were the easier one to paint because I think, I don't know, there was something about your features that
Keep talking, he's going.
Might have to get it between you there for a moment.
Do you know, my daughter says I have an enormous nose, and I'm going to bring her here and say, check out that baby. Giant schnoz.
Hey, congratulations on what you're doing in Mongolia too. We just saw that.
Oh,
It's,
thank
It's
you.
amazing. Yeah, well done.
No,
Well
thank
done.
you.
I think we come and bring the family and have dinner right here.
You bet.
What do you think?
Yeah.
We just say, look up. We've made it, Joe.
We're a work of art.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're definitely a part of Melbourne now.
Oh, that's amazing. That's the nicest thing I think anybody's actually done for me.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So beautiful.
Can't stop staring at myself, to be honest with you. It's just pure genius. I can't imagine how you get a spray can and get that sort of likeness. It's just amazing. It's captured all of us, you know, and our personality on a brick wall. I'm staggered that you can be so creative and so clever. It's I've never felt more happy with myself in my entire life. I'm going to come down here every week, I think. This is awesome.
I think the skill of painting is making it look like you without being too accurately you. So I look beautiful. He's done a very beautiful job.
No, it's a real honour, to be honest with you. In your own hometown, to see someone as gifted as that, it's pretty awesome. Yeah, I love it.
This has got to be one of the most special things I've ever seen. The fact that Go does paintings for such important causes, especially the work he's doing in Mongolia, and then we are privileged enough to have him do us, it is really surreal, but really special.
There's always something so special about seeing a painted. I think it's knowing that someone has spent the time, invested their energy and their love, their blood, sweat and tears into actually taking the time to craft something. It honestly really means a lot, and I know it means a lot for the entire team, and it's something that I will try and drive down this street a lot more for in the future.
I got to say, I wish I could take Go around with me everywhere in everyday life, because I look better than I do in real life. I'm so smooth, the teeth are white, the hair's perfect. If he can follow me around and just paint me, perfect.
Go, thank you so much. There's so much effort and thought has gone into that.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's really special.
Really glad you guys like it.
Yeah, really incredible.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for our show today. As always, check out houseofwellness.com.au for all the inside information and more facts. And check out our radio show every Sunday. Thanks to the team at Chemist Warehouse. This has been a remarkable show. And Go, you are a genius. This has been amazing. Incredible. Is that awkward?
So strong.